start off by doing a nice even coat on your gnome's hat. Make sure you're smoothing your paint edges out as you're painting. It will soak into the bisque ceramic some, but if you're putting your paint on too heavy, it can leave lines that you will be able to see once your paint is dry. So once you get to the edge where you need to cut in, you're going to want to make sure you're working with a stable surface. This is what works best for me. Obviously you can do what works best for you, but I like to rest my arms on the edges of like the table, which helps stabilize my hands. And then I put a medium amount of paint on my paintbrush. And with your hands stable, you kind of just stabilize and do a slow drag of your paintbrush. And the paint will create a natural guide edge. But you still will be painting your gnome's body, so you'll have some area of correction if your line is a little too wobbly and you're not happy with it. So once you wrap up with your edging, you're gonna move on and do your gnome's body. Just make sure you smooth all of your paints out, trying to keep the lines to a minimum. Looking good. So once again, when you're doing your gnome's body, you're going to use the same technique for edging your lines out against your hat. So make sure you have a moderate amount of paint on your brush and just slowly drag your brush. Now with these square brushes, it is really helpful because it creates a really nice edge naturally. But you want to make sure you have enough paint. If you do not have enough paint on your brush, it can actually be harder. So just take your time. And I always seem to start my edging farther back than what I need to. So if you watch where I'm starting my line, I always go back over paint that is already there. Just so that helps you get your line stabilized and started before you're actually applying paint to a certain area. And just slowly work your way around the edge. So once you're done with that, you're going to go towards the beard and you're going to use once again the same technique. Now the beard has some different edges, so don't hesitate to actually move your gnome around more to certain angles that work best for you. So once that's finished, I am going to apply my second coat of paint. Now I probably could have got away with one coat, but I had extra and I want to make sure it's nice and bold. So now that I've applied both coats on my hat and my body, I am going to move on to the nose. Now I just took the light skin color and I actually lightened it some more because my house is very neutral tones, and I felt with doing what I was doing with the colors, I wanted it to be just a slight tinge of color on the nose. So I went ahead and lightened it with my white. And once again, just take your time. So on the nostril area of the gnome, I like to add a moderate amount of paint, and then I wiggle my brush just a little bit to work it down into the nostril area. That eliminates some extra brushing, and it seems to work out really well and keep a nice edge along the beard part of the gnome. So I just did one coat and I was happy with the way that looked. So now moving on to the detail part of the beard. Now this is something you can do or you don't have to do. So I went ahead and I took the toothpick out of my kit and I am using the gray and the white, and I am dipping my end of my toothpick into both so I have more dimension into the paint, and I'm kind of scraping it into the lower parts of the beard. And that just is going to give me some more shadows and depth. I'm just going through and touching up. So now I'm going to do polka dots, and this is something you can do at home. You don't need any special tools. I'm just using a regular pencil and a pencil eraser. Just make sure your eraser is flat to start with. If you need to, take a knife and cut it so it's nice and flat. You want to make sure when you're doing the polka dots that you're putting enough paint on your eraser so then you won't have to dab it twice onto the same spot. Perfect. So now that my paint sat and dried really well, I'm going to do the clear coat. And as you can see, it is being applied with a cloudy sheen. It is a little bit tacky feeling, so you want to make sure you're working quickly and once again smoothing the edges of your brush marks. But don't worry, if you do have some areas that didn't smooth out very well, it still will dry to a beautiful glossy finish. So now that the hats are done, I'm going to move on to the body part. And I just stuck my finger in the base of the gnome, and it seemed to help with the stability of holding the gnome while doing the body. And I like to do my gnome in sections, but you might like to work in different ways and start with the body and move to the hat, or do it all at once, whatever you're comfortable with. Just make sure you're applying in nice light coats. And you're going to let that sit and dry, and then you're done. I hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget to check out our Facebook group, Home Sweet Tree Kit Club.